Thank you, Amanda. So I just want to reiterate Amanda's welcome and Daisy's welcome from that little song there. You are so welcome, and it's so wonderful to see so many people here this evening giving up their Friday night, especially now that pubs are open. You could have been sat outside in a beer garden, so thank you for giving up your Friday. As Amanda said, there's people here who have been involved in Youth 2000 over the past 30 years. There's some of you who have been here from the beginning, and there's some of you who have maybe joined us through lockdown, and maybe some of you have never experienced Youth 2000, and this is your first experience of that. So you're so welcome, and we're so happy that you're joining us tonight. So as Amanda said, to embarrass me, I'm Annabel, the National Director of Youth 2000, and it's a title and a role I never would have believed that would be mine 17 years ago when I first encountered Youth 2000. So I was first brought to a Youth 2000 retreat when I was about 10 years old by my parents, and entering the Walsingham tent back then, I had no idea what I was going to experience, but I stepped into a community of joy, a community of love, and it's had a major impact on my life. But never in my wildest dreams would I have thought this would be what I'd be doing 17 years later. So for those of you who don't know about Youth 2000, who may have just come across us online this year, we're a Catholic youth initiative. We're international, so there might be some of our Irish friends on the call tonight. And we are established to draw young people into a relationship with Jesus. And my favourite way to describe our charism is a phrase that Sister Faustina, if anyone knows her, she uses this all the time: all for Jesus through Mary. And our vision is to see young people set on fire with the Holy Spirit, devoted to the Eucharist and to Mary, who invite their generation into a relationship with Jesus, rebuild the church, and transform society into a civilization of love. That's quite a mouthful, our vision statement, as Jade learned at a recent donor call that she had to attend, and it's also not a simple task. So as many of you know, this is our 30th birthday, and while the mission and the vision of Youth 2000 remains exactly the same as it did 30 years ago, the Eucharist is the source and summit of our faith, and that remains at the centre of our mission. The landscape that we're operating in has shifted dramatically. 30 years ago when we started, we were a much more Christian nation than we are today. A study on contemporary Catholicism at St. Mary's found that only 50% of those brought up Catholic still identify as Catholic today, and the majority now claim to have no religion. And more shockingly for me was that for every one Catholic convert these days, there are 10 cradle Catholics who no longer regard themselves as Catholic. If I reflect on my friendship circles, especially the friends I made at university, most of my friends have never stepped foot inside of a church. They've had no contact with Christianity, apart from the free toasties that the Christian Union used to give out if we asked a question. So the challenges of being a Christian today are huge. And despite my involvement with Youth 2000 from the age of 10, despite growing up in a Catholic family where weekly Mass was central to us, I struggled to maintain my faith in this landscape. When I left home and went to university, the demands of being a Christian became too much. And I found that what the world was offering seemed so much more engaging than what I felt it meant to be a Christian. So I couldn't deny the peace and the joy that I've experienced at Youth 2000, but this spiritual high that I encountered just did not seem attainable outside of Youth 2000. And so like many, I threw myself headfirst into the university culture. Now, unfortunately, my testimony is not the exception. In fact, most of the young people who we encounter at Youth 2000 have a similar story. Lots have been brought up in loving Catholic, faith-filled homes, and they struggle to keep their faith alive during this major transition into university and adult life. And it's not just our Catholic young people that are struggling, but young people in general are disengaged from the church. They are lost in a culture, and they're getting lost in a culture whose voice is so much louder than the voice of God. The offer of sex and drugs and alcohol and so on is so much more prominent, and we're seeing the effects of this today in the mental health crisis, in the rise in addictions, in the rise in people with broken relationships. So I don't want to paint too bleak a picture. And while this seems bleak, young people facing issues is nothing new. The prophet Isaiah said, "Young men may grow tired and weary, youths may stumble," but he also prophesied hope. "Those who hope in the Lord renew their strength. They put out wings like eagles. They run and do not grow weary, walk and never tire." And hope is why we exist. Hope is why Youth 2000 exists. We offer young people a hope for the future. We offer a hopeful alternative to the solutions offered by the world. And what's unique to us, what makes us different maybe from a lot of other youth ministries, is all of our events are organised by young people for young people. So I'm always embarrassed when I have to give my title as National Director. I'm applying for a mortgage at the moment, and it just seems like the most ridiculous title, but that is true to what Youth 2000 is. It's young people supported by everybody else to lead their peers into a relationship with Jesus. And there's people here on this call today who inspired me by their witness 17 years ago. It was the young people on the mission team back then who helped me to believe that faith was possible when I was a teenager, when none of my friends were going to church, and we still do this today. So while our methods look a little different, and as Archbishop John Wilson said to our team a couple of days ago, said, "It appears you're finding new ways of being old-fashioned." And I think that's a perfect summary of what we've been trying to do. So this past year has been a major opportunity for us. And despite the global pandemic and the inability to organise retreats, there's been a real movement within Youth 2000 and a real shift. So I'm sure many can testify to the mountaintop experience you may have had at Youth 2000 or a Walsingham Festival. It's definitely a highlight, but I'm sure many can also testify to the post-retreat valley experience, that massive slump that takes place when you've left that field. And looking back, for me, I can always remember that dread of returning to normal life, of basically feeling like I've been in heaven for a couple of days and then landing with a crash back to earth. So this year, we've been working on ways to bridge this gap. We've had the time and the space to bridge the gap between the mountaintop and the valley. And as Isaiah prophesied, make a straight highway for our God across the desert. Let every valley be filled in, every mountain and hill be laid low. And we've also used this time to experiment with new ways of reaching young people. This year, we've been able to reach over 2,000 young people and engage with over 500 first-timers, which is crazy considering we're basically an events company that have totally shifted online. So it's been a real blessing for us. There's so much I could say about our online mission, and I'm going to do my best to summarize it, but this by no means covers everything that we've done this year. So firstly, and most importantly, of course, is prayer and worship. This year, we were able to launch a daily rosary. So Zoom has been a godsend for us this year. And every single day, Monday to Friday, our mission team meet to pray the rosary and have adoration. This means we've got students getting out of bed before 9 a.m. and we pray for the entire community of Youth 2000, including and especially everybody here. And this is always a joke for us. Me and Jade always say, like, nothing would get me out of bed before 9 a.m, not even my lectures at university. So this is a witness of our young people that they managed to get out of bed and pray the rosary with us. This year, we also launched our lockdown holy hours. And we've worked really hard to bring prayer into people's homes at a time when they maybe couldn't visit church. This year, we also launched our worship school. So you saw a brief snippet of our wonderful worship leader, Daisy, just then, and we're going to hear from her later tonight. And she's been working tirelessly to invest in 20 musicians and help them cultivate their gift of worship. So prayer and worship have been central to this year. Secondly, fellowship. This has been a real opportunity for us to bring people together. As you know, Youth 2000 is nationwide, it's international, but of course this means we are scattered all over the world and all over the UK and maybe see each other once or twice a year. Being online has given us the platform to bring people together weekly, monthly, daily. Some of the women here may have been part of our coffee club, which is a new initiative aimed at bringing women of all ages and walks of life together to explore their feminine genius. We also launched Mission School, which was a real highlight for us, bringing our young mission team of over 60 people together to build friendship and fellowship and also to be discipled. Thirdly, evangelization. So this year we trialled the use of Alpha as a way of evangelization. And I know Alpha often gets a lot of questions, but we can testify to its effectiveness. And we're now on to our 4th course since April 2020. Through Alpha, we've been able to reach people who we may never have reached, people that would never in their wildest dreams have walked into a field in Norfolk and be presented with the Eucharist. But these people, from the comfort and safety of their homes, have been able to explore these big questions that life offers. We've also been able to provide a space for people with physical disabilities that also maybe wouldn't have been able to attend a retreat, to engage with our mission, to step into our community in a way that's accessible to them. And finally, our retreats. So although we've not been able to do a big festival or host all of our retreats, we've done our best to invest in our digital platform and host retreats and festivals online. And this has enabled us to pray with hundreds of people, again, a testament to our mission team who have been stuck in breakout rooms, excluded from what's been going on, and just praying with so many people. And I think the fruit of this is summarized in this testimony we received from our Restore retreat. So this person said, "I always think that the Leeds retreat is the friendliest, but this was more friendly and more welcoming than even the last in-person retreat I was at. And this to me is just a complete summary of what we've done this year." So we're here to talk about the future. We're here because a lot of you are interested in what the future looks like. And for Youth 2000, I feel really hopeful. We have an ambitious goal of reaching 5,000 people over the next 5 years. And if there's one thing we've learned this year, it's the need to be innovative, to trial new methods of reaching people and to keep up with this cultural shift that's taken place. Our hope is that we can create a mission that continues to host retreats and festivals that facilitate this encounter with Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament. But we also want to build our online presence to bridge the gap, to bridge the valleys, and to be able to continue to reach young people online. Secondly, we've learned a huge amount this year about the importance of making disciples. I'm reading a book at the moment, and it really challenged me by asking me to reflect on the areas of my life that are oriented towards making disciples and the areas which are self-serving. And the author of the book said, if any area of our life is not oriented towards others, towards making disciples, then we're not living our calling. And our calling as young people, our calling as a mission team, is the calling that the disciples received in Matthew 28. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations. Discipleship has been foundational for us this year, and it's going to be a pillar moving forward. We recently launched a discipleship year for young leaders within Youth 2000 to invest in them. And we've seen the fruit of investing in our mission team over this past year. And hopefully later on, you'll be able to hear some amazing witnesses from some members of our mission team, who hopefully will testify to this, and it's not just me. So I just want to end by saying a huge thank you. Thank you for joining us this evening. It's been a huge blessing for me to step into this role this year. It definitely wasn't what I was expecting. My last job was in events, and so I thought I was stepping into running more events, and it's not been that at all. But I've been able to see how powerfully the Lord can use us to work in this scenario in all these ways. It's enabled me to see the creativity of God, and I'm so excited to see where we'll go in the next 5 years.